I'm Gina Solomon. I am the Trauma Program Manager here at Gwinnett Medical Center. Uncontrolled life-threatening hemorrhage is one of the leading causes of preventable death after traumatic injury. Gwinnett Medical Center is partnering with the National Stop the Bleed campaign to provide training to bystanders on how to control this life-threatening hemorrhage. Everyone should know how to identify life-threatening bleeding and know how to take the appropriate steps to control the bleeding until help arrives. There are a couple of primary principles to controlling life-threatening hemorrhage. First off is to ensure your own safety. It's very important that you make sure you are safe before you render aid to anyone else. The second principle is what we call the ABCs of bleeding control. A, alert, you want to call 911. B, bleeding, be able to identify the life-threatening bleeding. And C, compress. And there's 3 ways that you can compress the bleeding, and we're going to go into detail about each one of those. The first principle of the ABC is A, alert, call 911. It is really important that you get the pre-hospital providers en route to take over care while you render aid. B is bleeding. Being able to identify what is life-threatening bleeding. If you see bleeding spurting from a wound, pouring from a wound, clothes that are soaked in blood, you have bandages that are soaked in blood, if the person is missing all or part of a limb, an arm or a leg, or the person is becoming dizzy or unconscious, those are all signs of life-threatening bleeding. Wounds that can lead to death from bleeding are often located in the arms and legs, torso-junctional, which is the armpits, the groin, or the neck, or the chest and the abdomen, or internal bleeding. Unfortunately, with internal bleeding, bystanders cannot really impact those injuries, and they need quick access to a trauma center. And then C, compress. There are 3 ways to compress. First is just holding pressure. It is really important that if you have access to gloves, you want to put those on before you render any care. If you can protect yourself from bloodborne pathogens, this is an important safety step. So you want to put your gloves on, and then if you have access to gauze, that is great. But if you do not, any clean cloth will work. If you have a clean towel, a t-shirt, whatever you may have handy will work just as well. You want to take the gauze or the clean cloth and fold it and place it directly over the wound. You want to put the heel of one hand on the cloth, the heel of your other hand on top of your first hand, and lean in and put as much pressure on the wound as you can. You want to stay this way until help arrives. Do not peek, you don't want to look, you just want to hold pressure until the pre-hospital personnel can arrive and take over care. The second principle of compress is tourniquets. Tourniquets are used when you have life-threatening bleeding to an arm or a leg. If you have access to a bleeding control kit, they will have tourniquets in them. This is what's known as a cat tourniquet and is the most common tourniquet that is placed in those kits. It is a Velcro band, so you just want to unfold the band and take the circle and place it on the limb, over the site of the bleeding. It's really important that you go above the wound, and you also want to go above a knee or an elbow. It is okay to put it on top of clothing, just make sure there's nothing bulky in a pocket like keys or such that would impact the tension that we're going to place on the tourniquet. You want to take the Velcro strap and tighten it down on the limb. It just has to be snug. You are then going to notice there is a rod that is attached to the tourniquet. Once you have the Velcro strap snug on the limb, you want to turn the rod as tight as you can. You're going to twist until you cannot twist anymore, and it is very tight. Once you can no longer tighten the rod, you're going to place it in this C-clip to hold the rod in place. You then can take what's left of the strap and place it on top of the rod through the strap. Many of the tourniquets will have another Velcro strap that you can place over the C-clamp. Tourniquets are very painful, and it's okay to tell the injured person that this is going to hurt. You do not want to loosen it. You want to leave it as is until the pre-hospital providers take over care. They can give the person pain medicine to help with the pain, but it is normal for them to feel significant pain after the tourniquet has been placed. The third principle to compress is wound packing. Again, if you have access to gauze, that is great, but if you do not, any clean cloth t-shirt can be used as well. What we're going to do here is actually insert the gauze or the clean cloth into the wound to stop bleeding. So you want to take the end of the gauze or cloth and actually pack the wound. You want to use your fingers to place the gauze tightly and as deeply into the wound as you possibly can. And you're going to continue to pack until you cannot get any more gauze or cloth into the wound. Once you have packed it as tightly as you can, you then want to compress with pressure. So you want to put what's left of your gauze or t-shirt on top of the wound, apply the heel of your hand, the heel of your other hand on top of that, and lean and apply direct pressure. Again, you do not want to let off of the pressure until the pre-hospital personnel arrive to take over care. Bystanders can make a huge impact with life-threatening bleeding until first responders can arrive. The only thing more tragic than a death is a death that can be prevented. Thank you.